I'm Dr. Swanee Jett, and I've had a passion for public health for over 30 years. Now I'm in a position to effect change, and these are the critical conversations about health and our community, with people who can help me make those changes.
Is in the hands of black people. I have a trustee board meeting today. I will look into the face of a predominantly black board of trustees. With the exception of Kentucky State and its board of governance, there are no other colleges and universities in the state of Kentucky that has a black president and the board of governance is in the hands of black people. And black people need to control something. And you only have power when you are in control.
So you bring up something interesting. The two things I would say. And I don't think America really understands this. If we're going to undo racism, we have to go back and redo policies they created. Mm-hmm. So you've done it with Simmons College. The other aspect is governance, mm-hmm. right? So we can't change the governance structure because of how our voting scheme is now, right? But I think for HBCUs in particular, number one, we have to pay attention to what we educate our kids on. We have the governance right. And I think actually it probably should be a requirement that we take classes on African history and African American history. Mm-hmm. Because one of the things that I think that should occur, you don't get the gravitas of where we came from. And you're not taught if you're where you live at is integrated. It's not taught in schools. People up in arms with critical race theory now. But let's just say we want to teach true history and what occurred to us. I think HBCUs have a spot. That should be a dedication.
Yeah.
Before you graduate, you must take this class. Just like they force upon you, you must take English, social studies, you must take a history class, you must do whatever. I think that should be part of it. So I know Simmons is doing some of that, but I think that can be expanded. But you touched on another part as well. And I don't think HBCUs really have thought about this. You know, most of our institutions are in poor communities. What are we doing to change the community overall? Mm-hmm. And what is Simmons College willing to do? Not only, you look at the 9th Street divide, which hasn't changed since I don't know when, but also we have air pollution concerns. Mm-hmm. I want to do a campaign just to clean up the 9th Street dorm. Because if you cross any other neighborhood, it looks different. Yeah. What is Simmons College going to do in terms of that? Or have you thought about that aspect?
Well, one of the benefits of having a historical black college university is that according to a University of Georgia United Negro College Fund study that was conducted around 2015, 2016, HBCUs are economic engines for communities that are fortunate enough to have an HBCU. And I say fortunate enough.
Yes, correct. Yeah.
Because there will be no more HBCUs. I think people say, well, an HBCU, it's Simmons is an HBCU, or Tennessee State is an HBCU, or Morehouse is an HBCU. I don't think that people understand how you become an HBCU. So we have to just be very rudimentary and help people understand that to be an HBCU, you have to meet 3 criteria. Criteria number 1, you had to be in existence prior to 1964. So I can start a college today that has a black agenda, black faculty, black president, black board of governance, but it cannot qualify for an HBCU because the United States Department of Education, when HBCUs were set up, mandated that they had to be in existence before 1964. Simmons was established in 1879. Secondly, you've had to have a historic mission to black people. Simmons was born, especially Simmons when it grew after 1904, because there was a law passed by the Kentucky State Legislature in 1904 called the Day Law, named after a legislator whose last name was Day from Danville. The state passed a law that prohibited blacks and whites from being educated in the same classroom. So the only college open to black people in the state of Kentucky that taught the advanced professional disciplines like medicine and law and theology and the normal school, which is a teacher's college, was Simmons College of Kentucky. So we've had a historic mission to blacks, and then you must be accredited.
Right, that's a big one.
So there are only 101 HBCUs in America, which means that only 0.0003% of the cities in the United States has an HBCU. Now, Indianapolis has the Colts, and Cincinnati has the Bengals, but they do not and cannot have an HBCU.
And you know, that's funny you say that because
This episode of CEO Live Talks is brought to you by Park National Bank. Pay with confidence. Your Park debit card is the fast, safe, smart way to pay this holiday season. Get more details online at parknationalbank.com.
you know, that's funny you say that because, you know, I'm always playing devil's advocate. Who set that policy?
In 64?
Yeah, who said it can't be no more historical, right? There's still PWIs being built,
Yeah.
right?
Mm-hmm.
That caters to the white masses. So we need to change that policy.
Well, they didn't say that you could not start a black college. For example,
Just can't be historical.
They can't be a historical because it wouldn't be historical because to be historical means that you have history.
But if I started today, 100 years from now, it'd be historical.
It would be historical, but it would not be rooted in slavery.
It wouldn't be rooted in slavery.
Okay, so these institutions, for example, William J. Simmons, our school was founded by William J. Simmons, he was the second president, rather.
Right.
But our school was founded by enslaved people.
Right.
So this country, or whoever instituted the policies for setting aside as sacred and protected these institutions, said, you know what, these institutions are rooted in slavery.
Yeah. So, you know, I just think anytime somebody set a policy, I'm always curious on who was at the table.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Like, did anybody ask us?
I'm pretty confident that the HBCUs, because at that time, when it was started, and the reason why 64, because it's the same year of the public accommodations bill that was passed in 64. But I'm pretty confident that, first of all, they were not starting any more black colleges after 64.
That probably was the main case.
Okay, so since we have, and we've lost so many since '64, and there's a great chance that by the end of the decade, we may lose maybe half of the HBCUs that are in existence today.
And only
You may not survive to 2030.
Are you a healthcare professional considering new opportunities? Are you just new to the market? Or are you someone just looking for a change? Go to pdchc.org today and check out our many career options. Why not serve your community?
This episode is sponsored by Black Jockey's Lounge, an upscale, fun, and unique restaurant and bar in the heart of downtown Louisville, 630 South 4th Street. Visit blackjockey'slounge.com.
Welcome back. So we were talking about Simmons College, and then I wanted to kind of shift to, we have had COVID and then a lot of protests. So, I came from Bullitt County and went down to Sanford, Florida, right after the Trayvon Martin's murder. And I became the first black health commissioner there. And I was able to educate people on health equity. They didn't really know what I was talking about then, and social determinants of health. But I found myself at crossroads because I'm an epidemiologist by training. And so COVID happened, and I'm in Brookline, Massachusetts, and I started quarantining people in January, and all of a sudden, Breonna Taylor murder happens, and protests happen at the same time as I'm trying to save people's lives. Right. And I would come back to Louisville, and I would see, the streets look pretty bad. But you born and raised here. To me, it'd be good to have your perspective on racial profiling, which you've been involved in and I've been involved in. Breonna Taylor, and then, the past, and where do we go from here? I guess that's what I'm saying. Because COVID has ravaged, it always takes a natural disaster or some disease all of a sudden to show the uglies of the country and of the cities, and it just came to a boiling point. So where do we go from here?
I believe that until we commit ourselves to the empowering and the reconstituting of the 7 black historic institutions, Black America will continue to flounder and be bottom cast in American society. I believe the agenda must be that we must reconstitute black space, empower black space.
So in essence, what we lost in integration, we need to go back to that.
Integration was conceived with the idea that anything black was defective.
Right.
And that we must commit a form of cultural or ethnic suicide and be merged into whiteness.
This episode of CEO Live Talks is brought to you by Park National Bank. Pay with confidence. Your Park debit card is the fast, safe, smart way to pay this holiday season. Get more details online at parknationalbank.com.
Hello, my name is Zakia Williams. I am the director here at Outreach and Enrollment. What we do here at Park DuValle Community Health Center here within this department, we help consumers as well as patients here at Park DuValle sign up for Affordable Care Insurance, not only through the Affordable Care Act with healthcare.gov, but also through connect.ky.gov. We would like anyone that do not know anything about health insurance, and also those individuals that do not have health coverage, to come and see us, or anyone that needs information to come and see us. So those individuals that know someone or that do not have health coverage or that just need some type of information, please come and reach out to us. You can contact us at 502-772-5038 or 3015 Wilson Avenue, room 204. Thank you.
This episode is sponsored by Black Jockey's Lounge, an upscale, fun, and unique restaurant and bar in the heart of downtown Louisville, 630 South 4th Street. Visit blackjockey'slounge.com.
And that we must commit a form of cultural or ethnic suicide and be merged into whiteness. I don't believe that as a black man. I don't believe it as a Christian. I think it's antithetical to what the Bible teaches.
It's like anti-black.
Yeah, you know, there are 12 gates to the city when you go to heaven, so there's a gate on the east, the west, the north, and the south. I don't have to go to the east end to get into heaven because God has put a gate in the west, so that if you live in the west end or the west part of Louisville, you can get to heaven through the west gate. We've shut the west gate. So until we rebuild our institutions, that is job one. Because there's a difference between educating and training. Integration has educated black kids away from the black community and black interests. Training is not educating. If you see a lion in the circus on a stool obeying the orders of a lion trainer, he's a lion trainer. That lion has been trained, because it's not the nature of lions to sit up on a stool and take commands from somebody that's got a whip and a chair in their hand. That it's the nature of lions to fight hyenas and to be in a pack chasing gazelles and to sleep during the day and hunt at night. That's what lions do. And those lions get educated in the pack, in the lion pack. Now, if you pull a lion out of the pack and you bring him into a zoo with a trainer, he gets trained against his interests. He gets trained to sit on that stool to make money for the person who's trained them.
Against his nature.
Against his nature. So black people have often been trained against our nature and our best interest. And this has taken place, unfortunately, for 2.5 generations. We have 2.5 generations of black people who have no institutional memory. They have no idea what it was like in Louisville when you had black professionals, doctors such as yourself. They didn't live in the suburbs. The doctors lived in the neighborhood. On my street, when I grew up in West Louisville, we had F.G. Sampson down the street from me. F.G. Sampson was the greatest orator in America. He was idolized by Martin Luther King Jr. He preached a sermon at the Hampton Ministers Conference at Hampton University called The Audacity of Hope. And a man named Jeremiah Wright heard the sermon and preached it at Trinity. And there was a man named Barack Obama who heard Jeremiah Wright preach F.G. Sampson's sermon, and he wrote a book called The Audacity of Hope.
Yep.
That came from F.G. Sampson, who lived here in Louisville. And across the street from F.G. Sampson was A.D. Williams King, who was the brother of Martin Luther King Jr. That's why King was here in Louisville all the time.
Are you a healthcare professional considering new opportunities? Are you just new to the market? Or are you someone just looking for a change? Go to pdchc.org today and check out our many career options. Why not serve your community?
Hola, mi nombre es Miguel, asistente médico en la clínica DuValle Community Health Center, el departamento de adultos. Quiero desearle a todos nuestros pacientes de habla hispana una feliz Navidad, y en estos tiempos de COVID, de influenza, por favor, necesitamos que tengan su vacuna del COVID y la vacuna de la influenza. Es muy importante para mantenernos sanos todos. Gracias.
Because his brother was here. So you had all the judges, like Judge Shobe, Benjamin Shobe lived right behind me. We were all in the same community. Today's generation has no idea what it's like to have black professionals in the same community with the black poor and working class, because they've been separated as a result of integration, which has left the masses of blacks without institutions, without aspirational role models, and without advocates.
Okay. And that's interesting because, you know, you often reflect on internal. What can we do internally? Having a conversation with Dr. Ricky Jones, he focused on external. And I sort of focus on both because I think you're correct. We have to regenerate those communities, right? But also, we got to derail the structure that prohibits us from doing that.
Absolutely.
And the policy. So we got to go back and rebuild those communities. Mm-hmm. One, we got to do something about black on black crime, right? We haven't addressed that aspect. We got to rebuild a black family. We lost that in a sense. And I say that because there were more African Americans married in the 60s than it is now, mm-hmm. right? And right now, we're losing our African American men by large droves. We're at the highest mortality mm-hmm. right now, and we're not involved in the home as we should be. So we got to regenerate that aspect. But I'm gonna make another turn, shift that conversation, because I think it's very critical when you think about HBCUs. And of course, I went to Tennessee State, and I continue to support Tennessee State. But I know in today's era, you know, everybody was happy for Deion Sanders going to Jackson State. I'm happy that Eddie George is at Tennessee State. Mm-hmm. But I know he recently left to Colorado, and there was a storm about what you said about Deion Sanders leaving. But I want you to unpackage that so people get the full gravitas of what you meant.
Mm-hmm. Well, when I said that I want Deion Sanders to fail, I was not talking about Deion Sanders as an individual. So the quote that I made on Twitter was taken out of context, and I take responsibility for that because I should have been more specific in what I meant. What I meant was I want Deion Sanders' agenda to fail. Now, what is his agenda? When he left Jackson State and was lured to Colorado through white wealth, he continued the process of black excellence leaving black space to be utilized by white institutions. W.E.B. Du Bois, the father of American sociology, said, and I quote, "The black race, like all other races, will be saved by its exceptional men." Deion Sanders is an exceptional man. When those exceptional men are lured away from black space and utilized in white space, and then proceed to recruit Power 5 athletes that can help build up black institutional space, I want that agenda to fail, because I want black excellence in black institutional space where the black poor have access to them. So that's what I was basically saying, and that when Deion left Jackson State and moved to Colorado, I mean, I know Colorado starts with the word color, so it's C-O-L-O-R, but Colorado, Boulder is not an institution, quote unquote, of color. It is not a black institution.
It is not.
Jackson State is 92% black. Colorado is less than 2%. University of Colorado is less than 2% black. And then also I was speaking as an HBCU president.
Correct.
So as the critics, none of the critics who excoriated me and crucified me are presidents of an HBCU. I'm speaking from the vantage point of an HBCU president. I realize how critical it is to have black excellence in black space. I also know that because of the maldistribution of wealth due to 246 years of slavery, 90 years of Jim Crow, 50 years of benign neglect, and present-day political indifference towards justice and reparations for black people, that black people cannot compete with predominantly white institutions. So the top 10 predominantly white colleges have $333 billion. The top 10 HBCUs have $2.2 billion. How can 2.2 compare with 300 or compete with $333 billion?
It cannot.
We can't. $2 billion.